The next section is 2.2 on completing the square, and I think this section was rough for some of us just because it was something new to this year and we had all that snow, so you hadn't seen it in a while. But remember, the basic idea of what we do with the piece of paper, we cut it in half, right? So if I cut 18 in half, I got 9, and then I squared it. I end up with a little square in the corner I needed to fill in. So that would give me 9 squared, 81. So if I cut 20 in half, I would get 10, and then I square that, and I get 100. What about negative 1? Okay, I'm going to cut 1 in half. Well, a negative number squared is always positive, and I told you, please, please, please leave this as fractions. You had a lot of trouble if you were doing this with decimals. So 1 squared is 1, and 2 squared is 4. And this is always going to be plus because I always need to add something into my equation or my expression to complete the square. The last one, negative 3 divided by 2. You don't need to worry about what negative 3 divided by 2 is because you're going to square it and leave it as a fraction. 3 squared is 9, and 2 squared is 4. The first thing I need to do when I'm solving an equation by completing the square is get the left side, the x squared, and your b term by itself. So in this problem, I need to move my negative 10 to the right. Let's change it to a positive 10. Now I complete the process I did on the front, which is divide your b by 2. So 8 divided by 2 would be 4. And then you're going to square the end of that. So if I square 4, I'm going to get 16, and so I need to add 16 to the right side of my equation. Simplified, that will give me x minus 4 squared equals 26. To undo something squared, I'm going to do the square root. Don't forget the plus or minus. At some point, I will leave enough room for the plus or minus. X minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 26. At this point, I would want to simplify the square root of 26 if that was possible, but 26 is just 2 times 13, so there's not a way I can simplify that. And my last step is to add the 4 to both sides. So my final answer is 4 plus or minus the square root of 26. Not so bad, right? Okay, the next problem is making sure that you know in order to complete the square, you need to have your a equal to 0. So this would give me 9x squared minus 36x equals negative 7. So let's go ahead, divide everything by your leading coefficient. In other words, divide everything by 9. So this is x squared minus 4x, and I'm doing the happy dance because that's an even number, over negative 7 over 9. Please don't change that to a decimal. And now we start the complete the square process. Divide your b by 2. So b divided by 2 would give me negative 2 squared equals negative 7 over 9. If I'm adding this squared to the left, I need to add it to the right. So what is negative 2 squared? Positive 4. Now, I have to combine some fractions. So I have negative 7 over 9, and I'm adding 4. Well, I don't want 4 over 1. I want something over 9, so I need to multiply 4 by 9 over 9. What is 9 over 9? It's 1. It's not changing anything. It's just rewriting my problem with a friendly denominator. So plus 36 over 9. So that's going to give me 29 over 9. That's what the right side simplifies to. Equals 29 over 9. Now I'm going to do the square root of both sides. Don't forget your plus or minus. And my right side is going to simplify to plus or minus the square root of 29 over 3. And my last step will be to add the 2. So my final answer is x equals positive 2 plus or minus the square root of 29 over 3. So not very beautiful, but it got us there. The purpose of this last problem is to make sure you know how to do this when your b is odd, so you end up with a fraction. So I already have my c term on the right side, so divide your b by 2. Don't stress about it. Just put minus 5 over 2. That's it. You're making it too complicated, probably. Now, I need to square that term. So squaring that would give me plus 5 squared is 25 over 2 squared, which is 4. Now, I want to rewrite that 30 so that it is over 4. So that means I need to do 30 over 1 times 4 over 4 plus 25 over 4. So that would give me 120 over 4 plus 25 over 4, or 145 over 4. So once again, this simplifies. X minus 5 over 2 squared equals 145 over 4. Do the square root of both sides. Don't forget your plus or minus. So x minus 5 over 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 145 over, what's the square root of 4? 2. Now we have to do our factor tree. So I don't have something memorized with the square root of 145, so I'm going to say it's divisible by 5. So that's going to give me times 2, 29. Okay, that's not going to be able to simplify at all. So I am almost done. Add your 5 halves. X equals 5 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 145 over 2. And I'm done.